Thank you very much for making a date today on the marketplace. Now, let's start off with a very fair story. The Ghana Export Promotion Authority is projecting $2.8 billion in revenue to be derived by the state by 2021 from coconut cultivation. Director of Public Relations for GEPA, Ruth Marfo, disclosed that a maiden international coconut festival will also be coming off between 24th and 26th of September in Accra.
Coconut is one of the 5 crops selected for government planting for export and rural development. The Ghana Export Promotion Authority, in collaboration with the African Coconut Group, is hosting the first ever international coconut festival to bring industry players closer to the farmers. Director of Public Relations for the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Ruth Marfo, highlights further the economic potential of coconut.
Coconut is one of our cash crops that we've realized that is earning us some foreign exchange, and it needs to be promoted because it feels like that crop is not really so well known like the cocoa, cashew, pineapple. So we thought it wise that when the African Coconut Group decided to come up with this first ever International Coconut Festival, we thought this is a good launch pad to promote the crop, especially when we know that it has huge benefits when it comes to health, medicinal, beauty, skincare. It really does a lot, and it's untapped. We've just scratched the surface. So we thought this was a good way to actually know more about the crop and sell it more. Of course, to export more and earn more for Ghana. Sometime earlier this year, when we gave about 60,000 quality coconut seedlings to farmers in the central region, we projected that by 2021 we should be aiming to have about $2.8 billion in revenue. That's if all goes well and we are able to sell coconut as much as we want to.
Kweku Boateng is director of the African Coconut Group. He also shares other benefits of coconut production aside the usual consumption.
When you take the coconut plant itself, nothing about the plant goes waste. So every part of the plant is useful and can be channeled to an alternative use to create jobs. That is when we add value to it. For instance, let's talk about the water. Coconut water in 2015 in the United States was sold for about I think $305 billion. Okay, coconut water in the US was sold for $312 million. This was an analysis in 2012 because of the nutritional benefits that we derive from consumption of the water. That is the meat, as they used to call it. This is used in value is added to this to get the coconut oil.
The theme for the International Coconut Festival will be promoting export diversification through a robust Ghanaian coconut industry.
Meanwhile, farmers are expected to gain easy access to credit following recent financial service sector cleanup. That's according to the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. He made a comment during the launch of the 35th Annual Farmers' Day celebration, which will be held in the Volta region. Here's more in this report.
Speaking at the launch of this year's Farmers' Day celebration, Minister for Finance Ken Ofori-Atta revealed that government has so far spent some 1.4 billion cedis under the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative to boost the agri sector. The minister also noted government has taken several initiatives to address the old-age challenge of poor access to funds faced by farmers across the country.
We expect that the re-energized financial sector will lead to a more improved credit environment. Mr. Chairman, as you know, we have recapitalized ADB, Agri Development Bank, to ensure that they meet the minimum 400 million requirement that the Bank of Ghana requires. And I think that was approved in the last EGM a couple weeks ago. In addition to this, Mr. Chairman, we have set up GERSEL, which is supposed to be a risk mitigant for the banking sector, so that banks can go much longer and give more credit to farmers and agribusiness.
Minister for Agriculture Dr. Owusu Efriye Akoto stressed government's ambition to engage the youth through greenhouse farming to increase vegetable production.
Greenhouse villages with modern technological systems of vegetable production have been established at training centers at Dawenya, Akomadan, and now coming on in Kasua. This intention aims at promoting vegetable production and youth entrepreneurship with prospects of high-earning incomes through the export of vegetables. It will also help to attain self-sufficiency in vegetable production and reduce importation with its adverse effect on the country's balance of payment.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture Francis Atukujo noted more efforts were being put in place to enhance aquaculture and fishing business.
The ministry will enhance the provision of extension services delivery to small-scale fish farmers to equip them with the necessary technical knowledge and skills on site selection, pond and cage construction, water quality management, fish disease detection, and prevention, and post-harvest handling. With this, fish farmers will be able to improve their production by adapting relevant technologies. We will facilitate the development of markets and access by small-scale fishers and farmers under the Market Development and Accessing component of the Aquaculture for Food and Jobs program.
This year's Farmers' Day will be hosted in the Volta region under the theme Enhancing Small-Scale Agriculture Towards Agribusiness Development. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
Let's stay with agriculture because the Central Tong District Assembly has handed over acres of lands to prospective investors looking forward to engage unemployed youth in the district for agricultural projects. The DCE, Thomas Zoira Moore, tells Joy Business the Assembly is calling for more of such investors to come and invest in agric. Fred Duho has more in this report. All right, so we'll take that story later on in the course of the bulletin. Let's turn our attention to other stories. A recent investment validation report by CATS International and the World Economic Forum indicates that some investors are looking elsewhere to invest in others than Ghana due to legislations on the minimum capital requirement by the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC. According to the GIPC Act, foreign investors must have a minimum capital requirement of between $1 and $5 million to make them eligible to do business in Ghana. Now, we'll be telling you more about this particular development shortly, also in the bulletin. And you're still live on the marketplace. Now, it is emerging that some 1.2 million vehicles, if not more, in the country are not insured or carry fake insurance tickets, putting drivers and passengers at greater risks in the event of an automatic accident. The National Insurance Commission's 2018 report has revealed that out of the over 2.2 million vehicles registered with the DVLA, only 1 million motor insurance tickets have been sold out. My colleague Bismarck Ausa looks at the implication on the economy in the following Business Desk report.
The data, which is captured in the 2018 annual report and financial statement of the National Insurance Commission, highlights the alarming proliferation of fraudulent motor insurance tickets, especially those for commercial vehicles. It therefore inferred that there are a large number of uninsured vehicles or fake motor insurance tickets in circulation. The danger this poses is that it exposes innocent passengers to high risk of not being eligible for any compensation should they be involved in any accidents whilst traveling on such vehicles. The Commission, however, believes that the most effective solution to this is the implementation of an electronic motor insurance database, that is, a central database to check the validity of motor insurance tickets. The Commission is therefore in talks with the DVLA to ensure checks are made about the validity of an insurance cover before vehicles are registered or undergo a roadworthy assessment. The NIC looks forward to implementing this database before the end of the year 2019. Meanwhile, information reaching Joy Business is that though it is not clear the number of vehicles government owns, majority of the uninsured vehicles plying the roads are being used by its agents or employees. Thus, it means that the NIC has lost the fight against uninsured government properties, or maybe it's just a matter of time. Bismarck Ausa, Joy Business.
Let's return now to our earlier story where the Central Tong District Assembly has handed over acres of lands to prospective investors looking forward to engaging unemployed youth in the district for agricultural projects. The DCE, Thomas Zoira Moore, tells Joy Business the Assembly is now calling for more of such investors to come and into the district to invest.
The Central Town District in the Volta region is one of many districts in the country that has so far made strides in government's Planting for Food and Jobs program. At Mafi Amideko, a vast piece of land belonging to the state has been given out to investors for cultivation. About 5 companies have started establishing greenhouse installations to begin commercial vegetable production for export. Among these is the West Africa Commodities Company, which is installing 10 greenhouses and 500 open fields over 2,000 acres of land. The DCE, Thomas Moore, tells Joy Business the electricity installation is causing a delay in the project.
We need to connect it to electricity to get the fans working and can do cultivation. We tried, they tested the land already and it's very good, both the open field and the greenhouse one. So when we are able to mount the transformer, which is lying there for some days now, and it's connected to the houses, then production will start and workers will also start laughing.
He believes the assembly will generate much revenue through issuing certificates to these businesses.
The investors to come here, then we give them a portion of the land. This helps create jobs for our people. At least over 200 people are working here now. Direct laborers, and then the indirect one. At least you can count about 50 to 60 machine operators, those who come to sell, to my estimation.
Some local youth employed from the community recount the impact the project is making in their lives.
The coming of this company has employed a number of the youth from the community. We get our daily bread from this job from this company.
This project, when completed, will produce green pepper, tomato, among others. Fred Duho's report for Joy Business.
Now, still in the Volta region, the managing director of Angola Rural Bank, Gideon O'Day, says the bank's deposit mobilization has so far grown by 20%. He noted that the impact of panic withdrawals that hit the financial sector has been minimal on the Angola Rural Bank in the Volta region. He spoke to my colleague, Fred Duho.
The managing director of Angola Rural Bank, Gideon O'Day, says the bank is on a strong footing despite effects of the banking sector reforms. Speaking in an interview with Joy Business, he urged the general public to have confidence in rural banks. He said Angola Rural Bank has also exceeded the Bank of Ghana's 1 million cedi requirement for rural banks.
Our deposits have grown from about 12.7 million to 13.4 million this year, showing an increase in deposits of at least 6%. For over 17,000 customers, about 17,000 customers that the bank serves in our catchment area, an indication that deposit growth is still something we can count on. We have met Bank of Ghana's requirements that is expected of rural banks. For example, the minimum capital requirement, stated capital requirement for rural banks is 1 million, and the bank has 1.3 million in terms of stated capital. So that regulatory requirement has been met. Another key regulatory requirement is a capital adequacy ratio, where the minimum benchmark or the benchmark is a minimum of 10%. And it will interest you that the bank's capital adequacy is around 45%. So that should tell you that in terms of the regulatory requirements, Angola Rural Bank has met the basic requirements that are expected of rural banks.
Mr. O'Day stated that despite the bank's support for smallholder farmers and local businesses, its non-performing loan portfolio remains low due to the constant visibility and customer relations strategy.
We want to assure our customers that the bank is well positioned to continue to provide financial services for them. In terms of loans, we are seeing some increase this year. We've improved our loans for about at least 20% growth. And we want to continue and sustain that, give the customers the chance to lend or borrow from the bank for their business activities. We want to assure the customers also that our rural bank is here to stay. And then there should not be any doubt in the minds of our customers, and we expect them to continue to do business with us.
Fred Duho's report for Joy Business.
Now, players within the informal trading sector have been challenged to intensify record-keeping practices to enable them have easy access to credit. MD of Ecobank Ghana, Dan Saki, who stated this, noted that the lack of information sharing between financial institutions and informal traders has killed down the numbers and the frequency with which credit is accessed. He was speaking at the launch of Ecobank's Omni-Light Digibanking Park. There's more in this report.
Nobody can sit here and debate whether SMEs are important. It is important.
MD of Ecobank and Regional Executive Anglophone West Africa, Dan Saki, says the main reason most businesses in the informal sector have challenges accessing credit from financial institutions is the lack of information sharing and trust. At the launch of Ecobank's Omni-Light Digibanking app targeted at the informal sector, Dan Saki explains that his outfit, in close partnership with AFB, will be using the newly introduced mobile app to track the spending and revenue patterns of traders.
Between us and the various SMEs, the relationship has to improve. The reason why it is not where it should be is because of lack of information. Lack of information on our part, because, as I've said, we are not traders, but we need to come to your level and understand.
The Omni-Light Digibanking Pack includes a minimum operating balance of 100 cedis with no monthly charges, among others. Present at the launch was the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obin, who represented Ghana's trading community. He urged the business community to take advantage of the banking app.
This is the opportune time. They are saying that prove yourself for the credit that you want by ensuring that you use this facility, and then the turnover that you have that is reflected on your portal is what will guarantee you the credit that you want.
On her part, President of the Makola Women's Association noted the Omni-Light Digibanking Pack will go a long way to deal with the issue of theft and armed robbery in the various markets.
To get something so safe like this thing, I think it will save us money, and it will make us secure, that we will know that when we are traveling, we will not get any issues with armed robbers and so on, because already many will be on that phone. When even the phone is lost, your money is there, you can retrieve it with the new phone.
The Ecobank Omni-Light Digibanking Pack is expected to enhance working capital and, of course, increase access to new markets.
Now, African leaders have been urged to unite for a common goal under the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Economist Professor Godfred Bokpin, who stated this at the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana's public lecture in Accra, said the Continental Free Trade Agreement cannot survive under dispersed priorities of African leaders. There's more in this report.
African leaders must show leadership, and that is important because leadership is key in addressing corruption. Leadership is key in generating the much needed confidence in that trade area itself. Is very, very important. And then more importantly, if you look at how
African leaders have been urged to unite for a common goal under the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Economist Professor Godfred Bokpin, who stated this at the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana public lecture in Accra, said the Continental Free Trade Agreement cannot survive under the dispersed priorities of Africa. Professor Bokpin said the Continental Free Trade Agreement will help Africa to compete feverishly on the international market.
If you look at the number of times we have had to visit the IMF, even broadly in Africa, I mean, Liberia being there 21 times and all of that, these are issues that we have to be able to look at broadly, which will also inform fiscal and monetary policy management. Because the point is that when you go for some of these fund-supported programs, it doesn't depend totally on you in fashioning out your economic policy and all of that. So I think that since we are aspiring for Africa for Africa, Africa rising, Africa for itself, and all of that, I think we have to begin to also win ourselves off from many of these donor institutions that we tend to fall on more often than not, because some of the things that we have to do here must be financed. If we are unable to generate the finance ourselves, then it means that we are going to submit ourselves again to many of these donor institutions, and they dictate ultimately what the outcome. And that is why I believe that the Ghana Beyond Aid is very, very important. And I believe that it's not only a document that Ghana is proud of. I believe that Africa should embrace that whole concept of Africa Beyond Aid and ensure that we are able to finance our own development agenda from our own tax revenue or from foreign direct investment in a more competitive way.
Professor Bobkin added that Africans should ensure proper monetary policy management to ensure full control of the African market.
African leaders must show leadership, and that is important because leadership is key in addressing corruption. Leadership is key in generating the much needed confidence in that trade area itself. Is very, very important. And then more importantly, if you look at how much Africa loses annually through illicit financial flows, it's far more than how much we get from aid and even the Eurobond that we do. So what it means that there is a lot of revenue we can actually get without burdening the faithful few by closing these leakages. And we can only do so effectively when we collaborate. African countries, African governments should collaborate and share information and tracking. As we harmonize trade, customs, and all of that, we have to be able to share that information also and ensure that the excessive trade misinvoicing that is costing us billions of dollars are all closed out. That could be a lot of revenue for us.
The African Continental Free Trade Agreement will create a single continental market which will improve intra-African trade. Alberta, BCU for Joy Business.
And here we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Many thanks for your company. Have a good afternoon.